Hello everyone, and welcome to my final project for the Democracy and Power class. In this video, I'll explore the question of whether citizens have the duty to vote, or more simply, whether they should vote at all. This topic has sparked a lot of debate, especially recently as the US held an election. Across social media platforms, we've seen influencers, companies, and even friends urging people to get out and vote, framing it as their civic duty. But what are the reasons for and against fulfilling this so called civic duty? And more importantly, how convincing are these arguments? Among the many arguments for why you should vote is the simple fact that it would be bad if no one voted. According to Joseph Lieberman in his article, A Civic Duty, voting is the foundation of any functioning democratic system, serving as the primary mechanism through which a wide and diverse array of citizens can express their preferences, select their leaders, and advocate for policies they believe will enhance their lives. It allows individuals to voice their views, with the aggregate of everyone's choices reflecting society collective decision on what they believe is best for them as a whole. In his opinion article titled Low Voter Turnout Has Consequences, Jared Roberts, a political science graduate from Truman University, states that without widespread voter participation, the legitimacy and efficiency of the democratic system would be hindered, as the government would fail to take into account the diverse needs and opinions of its people. If citizens abstain from voting, their voices would essentially be silenced, and it would create a dangerous disconnect between the government and its people. Furthermore, the lead company in the article, A Civic Duty, Voting is Imperative No Matter the Size of the Election, states that if only a small group votes, policies are likely to reflect the interests and values of those people, while ignoring the concerns of the majority which didn't vote. This imbalance can result in decisions that only favor a particular group, which weakens the system's ability to serve and cater to society as a whole. This issue can be better illustrated with an example. So imagine an election with an extremely low voter turnout, where most of the voters are older individuals. In this case, since the elderly casted their votes, the policies enacted by the officials are likely to favor them, as they are the only group who voted and consequently whose voices were heard. Meanwhile, the voices, the opinions, and the concerns of other groups, such as teens and young adults, who did not participate, are completely overlooked and disregarded. For this reason, widespread and collective voting is vital to ensure power is given to leaders who reflect the collective will of the majority rather than of the select few. Another strong point for this argument comes from Kant's first categorical imperative, which suggests that individuals should act in ways they believe everyone else should reciprocate. In the context of voting, if you choose not to vote, you must ask whether it would be acceptable for everyone else to do the same, which, as explored previously, will lead to dire and terrible consequences. Hence, if you believe voting is essential to maintaining a fair and just society, Kant's categorical imperative also suggests that you have a moral duty to vote. In retrospect, these points advocate for the idea that voting is not just a right, but a fundamental duty that ensures the legitimacy and the effectiveness of the democratic system. By collectively participating in elections, citizens contribute to shaping the government in a way that better reflects the views of everyone in society. While there are numerous arguments in favor of voting, there are also many that oppose it. One such argument is the idea that casting your vote will almost certainly not determine the outcome of any public elections, raising the question of why you should bother voting at all. This argument is explored by Catherine Mangu Ward, a political journalist for Reason magazine, in her article, Your Vote Doesn't Count. She starts out by pointing out ever since the nation's founding in 1776, there have been 59 presidential elections, none of which were remotely influenced by one vote. Additionally, a study examining 56,000 state and congressional elections, where more than 1 billion votes accounted for, found that only 7 of those elections were determined by a single vote. These findings reflect the shocking reality of the current democratic electoral system, which, despite encouraging active participation, often renders individual votes insignificant in influencing the outcome of elections. Further statistics regarding this phenomenon make this argument even more convincing. A study conducted at Columbia University using data from the 2008 election found that the odds of a randomly selected vote influencing the outcome of a presidential election are approximately 1 in 60 million. These are the same odds of someone winning the lottery, which, as we already know, are extremely unlikely. For further comparison, you have even better odds of being struck by lightning during your lifetime, with a probability of 1 in 15,300, than your vote actually influencing the outcome of a presidential election. Even more striking, your odds of your house being hit by a meteor, a rock coming from the vast outer space, are 1 in 33 million, which are somehow still way better than the chances of your vote influencing a presidential election. This argument against voting, based on the low chance of influencing the outcome of an election, is grounded in consequentialism, which is the idea that whether an action is morally right or wrong depends only on the consequences or the results it generates. Since your vote is highly unlikely to yield significant outcomes or alter the results of an election, consequentialism suggests that abstaining from voting is morally justifiable. From this perspective, if the expected impact of casting a vote is minimal, the act of voting is considered an inefficient use of time and energy, making non participation the only rational choice. Hence, while voting is commonly regarded as a civic and moral duty, the statistical reality of voting in elections raises questions if people should even bother voting at all. The extremely low chances of an individual vote influencing the outcome of an election have encouraged many people to reconsider if voting is the most effective way to bring about positive change in society. This has led some to explore alternative methods of civic engagement, such as working on food banks or homeless shelters, which lead to a more direct and observable positive impact for society. While both sides offer strong arguments about voting, I support the perspective that views it as a moral duty, urging individuals to take an active role in shaping society. Despite the statistical improbability of a single vote directly influencing the outcome of an election, I believe it is crucial for people to come together and engage in the electoral process. Through voting, citizens have the power to influence decisions that shape the direction of a society, ensuring that policies reflect the collective interests and values of the population. Nevertheless, this collective effort can only be truly and effectively achieved if a significant portion of the population participates in the process, proving a good reason as to why people should vote. Furthermore, I partially disagree with the argument against voting, as it undermines the power of a single vote by suggesting it is insignificant. In reality, when votes are combined, they hold immense power. A quote that captures this mindset is, "I won't vote because my vote won't make a difference," said by millions of other people. While a single vote indeed may seem insignificant, the collective efforts and votes of many can ultimately influence the outcome of an election, and thus the direction of a country. For this reason, despite this argument against voting, I firmly believe that everyone should vote, as elections are decided by the collective and not by the individuals. Additionally, Kant's philosophy highlights voting as a citizen's personal duty and moral responsibility in the democratic process. According to his reasoning, abstaining from voting not only neglects one's obligation as a citizen, but also sets a harmful precedent for everyone else in society to follow. This behavior threatens the integrity of democracies, as a disengaged population erodes the foundation of equality and inclusivity which democracies depend on. For this reason, it is imperative that every single person fulfills their duties to vote. In conclusion, the debate on whether citizens have a duty to vote is complex, with valid points on both sides. However, I firmly believe that voting is not merely a right, but an essential duty that citizens must uphold. While it is true that a single vote may not determine an election's outcome, I strongly believe that collective voting is the means through which policies can reflect the values and priorities of the citizens in society. This argument clearly demonstrates that voting is what sustains democracy, and therefore, citizens indeed have a duty to vote in order to better contribute to the system. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching.